In this video, we will see how we can create an interactive selectable list of options using SwiftUI, okay? When we select an option, as you guys can see, we have this smooth animation, okay? The selected item gets bigger, and we also have this nice border, okay? In order to save us some time, what I did, I already have this setup. Here we have this option object, okay? And for each option, we need an ID, a title, and this is selected, okay? And here we have a view model. And inside this view model, we simply have this array of options, okay? As you guys can see. And here we have a view, okay? And inside the view, what we want, first of all, we need this reference, okay, for view model, okay? This is how we are going to access this view model, and by extension, this array of options. And here, inside the body, we have this z-stack, okay? And on this z-stack, we apply this color, my accent color, okay? So you guys also need to create this on my accent color. So what you can do, you can simply come here and do a right click, and you want a new color set, okay? And once you have this new color set, what you want to do, you want to come here and set this color, okay? So you can select this color, okay? Tap on this, and here you can simply provide this color, okay? And once you have the color, you should be good to go, okay? And now we can close this. So as I said, we have this color, and then we have this on v stack, okay? And inside this v stack, we have this question, and we have a list of our options, okay? And that's pretty much it for our setup, okay? Now the first thing we want to do, we want to work on our UI, okay? We want our option to look exactly as our finish app, okay? And in order to do that, what we want, instead of simply having this text, okay, what we want to add this h tag. And now inside this h tag, we want to cut this text and put it inside. And before this text, what we want to add our image. And the name of our image will be cycle.fill. And as you can see, we have this cycle image, okay? Now we want to add some style to our image. The first thing we want to add a foreground style. And here the color we want the same color, okay? We want the same my accent color. So what we can do, we can simply copy this and paste it down here. And normally this color should change. Okay, perfect. And next we can apply a font to our image. Okay, now we also want to add a style to this text. So what we want to add a foreground style. And here the color we want is the color black. And we want to play with the opacity. Okay, perfect. And we also want this text to be bold. Okay, perfect. Now on this h tag, what we want to do, we want to also style our h tag. So we can add a padding, we can also add a frame, and here for the max width, we want to set it to infinity. And we also want to specify that we want an alignment of leading. Okay, perfect. And now we also want a background, and we want to add a corner radius. Okay, perfect. And as you can see, we are getting close to our finish app, okay? But here on our finish app, as you can see, we have a space, okay? This spacing is a little bit bigger than this one, okay? So what we can do, we can come on this h tag, and we want to specify the spacing, and we can set it to 15. And as you can see, we have here a bigger space, okay? Now the next thing we want to do, we want to change the color of this icon or this image depending of if this option is selected or not. Because as you can see, when we select an option, this icon, okay, the opacity of this icon goes to 1, okay? But when it's not selected, as you can see, when it's not selected, the opacity is 0.3, okay? So how can we achieve this result? Well, in order to achieve that, what we can do, we can come up here and we can create a new private function. Okay, so it's going to be private function, and we will call it indicator color. And here we want to pass in a boolean, and we will call that boolean is selected. And here what we want to return is a color. Okay, because in case this is selected, we want to return this color, my accent color, with an opacity of 1. Okay, and in case it's not selected, we want to pass the same color but with a different opacity. Okay, and here what we can do, we can simply tap this return, and here as we said, what we want to return, we want to return this color, my accent color, with this opacity. So we can copy this and put it here. Okay, and just to show you that this will work, okay, so what we can do, we can simply copy this on is indicator and we can put it here. So instead of this color, what we can do, we can simply remove this and call a function. And here of course we need to pass this option, and what we want to get from this option, we want to get this is selected. Okay, and normally everything should still be the same. So if we check our emulator again, normally everything is supposed to work, but here we have an error. Let's see, and we can see that we are missing this is selected. Let's see this option. Okay, here we have this is selected. So what we need to do, we simply need to provide this is selected here, and normally the error should go away. And as you can see, our URL is still the same. Okay, so now what we want to do, we don't want to return this color, the same color every time. So what we want to do, we want to play with this opacity. So what we will say that, okay, if this is selected, if this is selected is true, the opacity we want is this 1.0. okay, but in case it's false, the opacity we want is this 0.3. okay, so yeah, what we are saying is, I will say it again, if this selected is true, we want to have this 1.0 as the opacity, and if this is false, okay, if this is false, what we want this 0.3. okay, so what we can do, just for the sake of testing, what we can do on this option 1, what we can do, we can provide this is selected, and we can set it to true, and normally the color of this image should change. Okay, perfect. And as you can see, the color change. Okay, so which is good. Now the next thing we want to do, we want to add this border. Okay, and the rule should be the exact same as this image. Okay, so if this option is selected, what we want to add this border. Okay, so if we come back to our code, what we want to do on this edge tag, we want to apply an overlay, and inside this overlay we want this rounded rectangle, and here for the corner radius, we want a corner radius of 10, and now we want to specify that we want it to be a stroke, and here we can specify the color of this stroke, and of course it's gonna to be this my accent color. So what we can do, we can copy this, and here inside this stroke we can simply paste it inside here. Okay, and normally this color should change. Okay, as you guys can see. Okay, and now you also want to specify the line width. So line width, and we want it to be 2. Okay, just for you guys to see clearly. Okay, and as you guys see, this stroke will get thicker. Okay, and if for example we play with this line width, if we set it to 20, okay, just for you guys to see the effect. Okay, but we don't want it to be 20, we want it to be 2. And we also don't want it to appear when the option is not selected. Okay, so we want the border to appear only when we select an option. So what we can do, we can apply the same logic here. So what we want to say, that, okay, if this option that is selected, if this is true, the color we want is this color, and if this is false, the color we want is this color, that clear. Okay, and this clear simply means that we don't want any color. Okay, and as you can see, because now this option 1 is selected, we only have the border on this option 1. Okay, which is pretty cool. So we are getting closer to a finished app. The next thing we want to do, we want to add this animation, okay? Because when we select an option, as you can see, we have this smooth animation, okay? And the option is getting bigger, okay? So how can we achieve this result? In order to achieve this, what we want to do, we want to go back to our edge stack, okay? And after this overlay, what we want to add a scale effect. So it's going to be that scale effect. And for a scale, what we can do, we can provide this 1.0.5, okay? And as you can see, our option will get bigger, okay? And we don't want this, okay? We only want this on 1.0.5 only when we select an option, okay? So we have this same principle. So what we can even do, we can simply copy this, okay? And we want to do the same thing on this scale. So we want to say, okay, if this is selected, if this is true, what we want this 1.0.5, and if this is false, we want this okay? So the normal state, okay? So normally only this option 1 should be bigger, okay? And as you can see, only option 1 is bigger, okay? And now the last thing we want to do, we want to add a tap gesture, okay? Because right now we cannot select anything, okay? As you can see, this is not clickable, okay? But on our finish app, everything is clickable. So what we want to do on this scale effect, we want to add this on tap gesture. And just to show you that this is working, what we can do, we can simply add this print statement. And now if we tap on something, normally we are supposed to see this row tabbed, okay? So if we tap on this icon, as you can see, we have this on row tab. So if I tap again, as you can see, every time we tap on this, the code we have here will be executed, okay? Now what we want to do, we want to go back to our view model, and here we want to dynamically change this is selected, okay? So every time we tap on one option, what we want to get that option, okay? And we want to change this is selected, okay? Here we can remove this is selected, okay? And what we want to do, we want to add this new function. So it's going to be function, and we will call it select option. And this select option will take an option ID. And here I'm going to write the code, and then I will explain on what I wrote. Okay, let me explain this. Here what we are doing, every time we tap on this option, what we want to do, we want to call this select option, okay? And inside this select option, we want to pass this option ID, okay? So it's going to be option ID. And here the ID we want to get our ID, this option that ID, okay? And here this is my bad, I forgot to call this view model. So we need this view model first, and then we can call this select option, okay? And we still have an error, let's see. And yeah, I think here we set option ID with capital G, but it's lowercase. Okay, perfect. So what we are doing here, what we want to do here, every time we tap on one option, we want to call this function, okay? And what we want to do, we want to get the selected option, and we want to change the is selected, okay? And in order to provide a better explanation, let's take a look at this spreadsheet, okay? So this is a function, okay? This is the exact same thing we have, okay, inside our code. So what we are doing here, when we call this select option, we are passing an ID, okay? So let's say inside our app, we select this on option 3, okay? So this is our current selection, okay? So when we call this option, this select option function, we will pass this ID. So we can copy this ID and paste it up here. So we are inside this function with this ID, okay? So what the function will do, it will go through all of our options indexes. Okay, so here I added this index, and as you guys know, the index start with at 0, so that's why I added this 0. So what we will do, we will go through a list, okay, a list of options, and here what we are saying is for each option, for option index, okay, so index 0, for example, we will start with this one, this Toronto. So Toronto is index 0, so we'll take this option index 0, so which is this one, this guy, okay. So we take the first option, okay. So what we are saying is get the first option and get this is selected. Right now, our is selected is false, okay. So get this is selected, and we want to send to this is selected this boolean, okay. And what is this boolean? What we are saying is, yeah, for option index, meaning this option, check if this ig, okay, the index ig, meaning this, so check if this ig is the same, check if it's the same thing as the provided id, okay. So check if this one is equal to this one, okay. And as you guys can see, this ig is not equal to this one, so this will return false, okay, because it's not equal to the provided ig is not equal to the selected ig or the index ig. So here the value won't change, okay. So if this is selected, will still be false, okay. And we will go to the next index. So is this ig equal to this ig? The answer is no, so this will remain false, okay. And now you will go to index number 2, okay. Is this ig, okay, index ig, is this ig equal to the provided ig? The answer is yes, so this will return true, okay. This guy will return true, and here instead of false, now we will have true, okay. And we will go to the next index. Is this ig equal to this one? No, they are not equal, so this will return false, and this is selected will stay at false, okay. And by doing this, we make sure that we only have one selected option, okay. Because you might ask me, why do we have to go through the whole list, okay? Why don't we directly change? Because what we could have said here is, okay, take the selected ig and simply change this is selected to true, okay. But if we do so, for example, let's say we select this order of first, so we will set this is selected to true, okay. But if we later change our mind and select this Vancouver, for example, this is selected will also be true, okay. And now we will have this list with 2 items selected, okay. But we don't want this because this is a single selection list, so we only want one selected item at the time, okay. So that's the reason why we are going through the list, okay. So I hope with this explanation you are able now to really understand this function, okay. So now that this is done, what we can do, we can first of all, I think we have an error here, so let's see. And we still have this option id. Let me click on this fix, okay. Oops, and this is my bad, okay. I think I have a typo here, so here is option id, and the same goes here. And normally everything should be okay now, okay. And now we can test our function. So if we tap on this, okay, as we explained, it will set this is selected to true, okay. And normally we are supposed to see a border, and also this icon, the opacity of this icon should goes to 1, okay. So let's see if we tap on this, and as you can see, everything is working perfectly, okay. And we also have this on animation, okay. And we can also see that we can only select one item at the time, okay. And everything looks good, okay. Now the next thing we want to do, we want to add an animation, okay, because right now it's a little bit rough, okay. When we select an item, okay, this is a little bit rough. So what we can do, we can go back on this edge stack, okay, and after this scale effect, what we can do, we can add an animation. So it's going to be that animation, and the animation we want is this bouncing, and yeah, we want to trigger this animation on this option that is selected. And normally with this, you are supposed to have a nice animation now. Okay, as you can see, we have this bouncy animation, okay, which is cool. Okay, with that said, I think this is the end of this video. Okay, as you guys can see, our app now looks exactly as a finished app, except for one thing, okay, for this title. So what we forgot to do, we forgot to add some style to this text. So what we can do, we can simply add this foreground color, and now everything looks exactly as a finished app. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If that's the case, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.